I'm Ric Edelman. Coming up, robots have been the stuff of science fiction for decades. Now they're becoming ubiquitous. What does that mean for your life and your pocketbook? Also, the world's population is aging. What does that mean for you? And if you've managed to pay off most of your mortgage, now may be the time to start all over again. All that and more on this edition of The Truth About Money.
This program is funded in part by TD Ameritrade. At TD Ameritrade, we support investors and independent registered investment advisors every day, providing access to tools, research, and educational resources that help you pursue your goals with confidence.
I'm Ed Burns. I've spent a lot of time around cameras. However, I've never actually swallowed one before. Till now. It's a camera the size of a pill that lets your doctor see inside of you. That's kind of awesome.
Technology is evolving. We believe the way to invest should evolve as well. A prospectus is available at 1-800-iShares, which includes investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information that you should read and consider carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal.
I'm Ric Edelman. The truth about money is Uncle Sam is always going to get his cut of what you earn. So the question is, do you pay him now or do you pay him later? The answer is dollars and cents.
Hey, Rick, we're the Marauders from Jacksonville, Florida, enjoying this lovely weather here in Times Square. And we had a question to ask you. We currently have a 403B plan, and we were wondering the advantages and disadvantages of switching over to a Roth IRA.
Well, first of all, if you are currently contributing to the 403B, which is a retirement plan offered by your employer, you don't have the option, in most cases, of moving the money to an IRA. But some people do. You might have a dormant account from an old 403B you're no longer participating in, or from an old job where you no longer work. And you, in that case, might have the flexibility of moving the money from a 403B over to a Roth IRA. Don't. And the reason is very simple. If you take money from a current retirement account, whether it's a 403B in your case, or a 401k, or a thrift savings plan, any one of a number of retirement programs, if you move that money to a Roth IRA, guess what happens? You're going to pay taxes immediately on the full value of that account. Why on earth would you want to do that? The whole point of having the money in a tax-deferred account is so that you don't have to pay taxes until you reach retirement. Oh, I know what you're saying, but if you pull the money out now and pay the tax now, you'll be paying less in taxes now than if you pay taxes later. Well, that's true in dollars, but it's not true in percentages. The fact is, converting to a Roth IRA does not increase wealth. The only thing it does is accelerate your tax liability. In other words, the number one beneficiary of the Roth IRA conversion is Congress. We go from New York to Hollywood to ask just one question, Celebrity Edition. How were you able to ride the waves of feast and famine in show business?
I've been very lucky. I've worked since I'm 18 years old, almost nonstop. I mean, when I started doing the musicals, I right away, when I was the first person under personal contract to Rodgers and Hammerstein and did the musicals. Then when the musical stopped, I thought, well, my career is over, because if you were a musical person, they never thought of you as an actress. And I went into television, and that was the time of wonderful television, live television. And I played an alcoholic sunshine girl in the Max Sennett era. And Burt Lancaster saw that show, and that's how I got Elmer Gantry. And Elmer Gantry was the change in my career. And therefore, I got job after job after job. Small roles in movies, big roles in movies. road tours, and all kinds of things. I never stopped singing because, you know, then I went right into, after that, the Partridge Family, where I was singing again. I'm 79 years old, and it's still nonstop.
More than 1 million people serve in our nation's military. I was honored recently to help some of them deal with their financial questions. Here's the truth about money at Fort Belvoir.
Good evening, Rick. My name's Andrew, and I retired in June 2011 as a civilian. And I refinanced from a 30 to a 15-year loan, 5-1 arm, prepaid a little bit.
Oh, you're killing me.
And the person who does my taxes says, I know how much you have in savings. I know how much you have in your TSP. Your mortgage is $43,000 a year. He said, why don't you just take a little bit of your savings and pay down your mortgage even now? He said, your mortgage interest is so low. He said, you're not really getting anything from the IRS.
In other words, your accountant is telling you that the vast majority of your payment is principal, not interest.
Right, and I've looked at it because
You need a new accountant.
I looked at it, and I'm only getting $150 a month for interest.
Follow me on this. Follow me on this. You really do need a new accountant.
Okay.
And here's why. His analysis is accurate, and his conclusion of the analysis is completely backwards. He's recognizing, as any self-respecting accountant would, that a key benefit of the mortgage is the tax deduction. And he's looking at it from that perspective, and he's saying, wait a minute, you're not getting any tax deduction for this. Therefore, he's thinking, why bother with it? Right?
Correct.
You need a new accountant. And here's why. When you get a mortgage, a brand new mortgage, 30-year mortgage, your very first month's payment is about 92% interest, which is why almost the entire payment is tax deductible. But as you pay that loan off over the years, the amount of interest reduces and the amount of principal increases to the point where you're near the last few years of the mortgage. Instead of it being 92% interest, it's now 92% principal, and you're not getting much of any tax deduction for it. So you've got that scenario. Your mortgage balance at this point is only $43,000. And you've had your mortgage for so long, and you've been doing such a good job at paying it down, that at this stage, your monthly payment is almost entirely principal. So your accountant is saying, the money that you owe the bank isn't costing you anything. There's no interest there. So let's take money that you are earning interest on and give it to the bank that isn't charging you any interest. You need a new accountant. He's a moron. Instead of telling you to pay down the mortgage principal, which is free, and to do it by liquidating investments that are currently earning a profit, forcing you to lose that money, what he should be telling you is what? Start the mortgage clock over. Refinance that $43,000 mortgage to a brand new 30-year loan.
I can't, because I've tried to, and the mortgage company said,
it's too small a loan
it's
amount.
too small, we won't do it. And he also said, next month, your retirement is going up another $10,000 a year. He said, even with that, he said, you don't have
enough income to qualify.
Right, he says.
So here's my point. If, excluding that issue, I would argue you refinance the mortgage, start the interest rate clock over, and by starting the interest rate clock over, you'll be back to a 92% portion of interest, and for the same payment, you'll have the full deductibility that you have long since given up. In your scenario, because of a combination of the small size of the loan, it's not worth their time, and your income scenario relative to the value of the property, you're not qualifying for the loan, fine, leave everything the way it is. In other words, you borrowed money from a Shylock. You borrowed $43,000, and the Shylock says, I want you to pay me back $1,000 a month. I'm not going to charge you any interest. Are you going to pay him back 43 grand right now? are you going to pay him back $1,000 a month until it's gone?
1,000 a month.
You need a new accountant.
Okay, thank you.
It's really important to understand where you get your financial advice from. Don't take financial planning advice and investment advice from an accountant. And don't take tax advice from a financial planner. Don't take legal advice from an accountant, and don't take financial planning advice from a lawyer. One of the big mistakes we find people making when they're in a divorce scenario is that they take financial advice from their divorce lawyer. Divorce lawyers are notoriously uneducated in the field of financial issues, and we have seen more than one client get financially devastated because of horrifically bad advice from a divorce attorney. Divorce attorneys, they understand the law about the difference between alimony and child support, but they don't understand the differences at all about investment management questions and the deviation of and the split up of assets, who gets which asset, and so on. So you need to be really careful where you're getting your advice from. Accountants know the tax code. That doesn't mean that they are skilled in investment management and financial planning questions. Nor am I a CPA, so I don't answer detailed tax questions. This is why we work in tandem. Financial planners, accountants, and attorneys work very well together for a given client to make sure the client is getting the correct advice in all of these areas.
To succeed financially, your total monthly payments for all debts, including rent or mortgage, cars, credit cards, and other loans, should not exceed what portion of your income? A, 20%, B, 28%, C, 36%, or D, 44%. Stay tuned for the answer, coming right up.
When you hear the word robot, what comes to mind? Do you picture the droids from Star Wars, your home vacuum cleaner, or do you see some futuristic army of killer bots? Well, maybe your vision should include all three. Scientist and astronaut Dan Barry says robots will lead us out of this world, but there could be a dark side. A lot of people are assuming that it will be robots that are going to be exploring the heavens more than mankind.
There's a tremendous application of robotics in space. It's a symbiotic relationship. You know, the robots go first. They can build habitats. They can do the tough stuff that humans aren't too good at, the heavy lifting, so to speak. Humans can come along and use what the robots have built and also drive the robots themselves to extend the reach that we have within habitats that are, frankly, in pretty harsh environments.
Such as Mars.
Exactly.
So that means that the development of robotics here on Earth is paramount. We've got to get that done first before we can launch them into space, obviously.
And we've already done it, right? I mean, we have a number of rovers that are on Mars. And of course, we use robots all the time on the International Space Station. So it's humans and robots working together.
And we're using robots in factories these days. Cars these days are built more by robots than humans. Some people are wondering, does this mean that we're going to see massive unemployment as robots take over the jobs and tasks that humans up to now have been performing?
We are going to see some employment shifts. I think that's for sure going to happen. But the kind of jobs the robots are going to take are the sort of jobs that we don't want to have. You can compare it to agricultural workers 100 years ago. I mean, people were in the fields. And we have now transformed agriculture so that 98% of the human labor that was there before is now not in agriculture.
The only robots that I've seen in a practical application at the consumer level are the little vacuum cleaners that run around on hardwood floors.
Yeah.
And they're almost regarded as much of a toy as a genuine utility.
Yeah, so exactly. So this floor scrubbers and vacuum cleaners are the things that have made it into the household. We don't see Rosie the robot. We don't see the robot that can do the laundry and clear the table and cook the meals. And we're not going to see that for some time because it's hard to get robot arms to manipulate objects, to recognize things. That's going to be a while coming. However, right now in my house, there's a robot that can go and notice when the doorbell rings, go to the door, open the door, greet the pizza man, take the pizza, pay for the pizza, say goodbye, close the door, lock the door, and bring me the pizza. That all works. That's today's technology.
This is really exciting, but at the same time, I'm wondering about the dark side, where the robots could be a problem for society rather than helpful.
Yeah, so any big change in technology comes with big positives and big negatives, right? One big one is putting weapons in the hands of robots and then allowing robots autonomy to fire those weapons. That's a scary one because if I have a robot and you have a robot, and my robot has to ask my permission to shoot you, and your robot doesn't have to ask your permission to shoot me, then me and my robot are dead. So along with this dark side comes a really positive side. I mean, we can really transform our productivity. We can free ourselves to do the things that humans are good at, creativity, expand our minds, so to speak. And why would we give that up?
So it sounds to me as though you're as excited about the next 10 or 20 years as you've been over the past couple of decades.
Yeah, I am really optimistic.
To succeed financially, your total monthly payments for all debts, including rent or mortgage, cars, credit cards, and other loans, should not exceed what portion of your income? The answer is C, 36%.
Saving for retirement is the best thing you can do for your future. But you also have to consider how to save, where to invest, and what problems can come up down the road. These are the kinds of issues I help people solve every week. We're talking with Dr. Ken Dykewald, who's perhaps the nation's leading authority on aging. Ken, you're probably the nation's most acknowledged expert in the field of aging. And you've been doing this for a very long time, written a number of books, including The Age Wave, where you're basically beginning with the hypothesis that the boomers, since nobody has ever noticed this, the boomers are aging. And this is a massive tidal wave of implication on our society.
Right.
So explain what you mean by the age wave.
Sure. So there's three parts of it. First of all, the context. Throughout all of history, people didn't live very long. Throughout 99% of human history, the average life expectancy at birth was under 18. So before around the 18th century, living to 40 or 50 was considered quite rare, and usually 50-year-olds were considered old people.
You were an old maid. I remember women, if you weren't married by 21, you were an old maid.
Yeah, and if you were 60, you were really considered an elderly person. But what's happened in the last century is that breakthroughs in healthcare, pharmacologic breakthroughs, on and on, better distribution of foods. We're now living 78 is the average life expectancy, but in the decades to come, as you and I have talked about before, living to 90 or 100 will become commonplace. By the way, if you're going to live 80 or 90 years, being 50 or 60 is really being in your prime. It's being in middle-essence. It's not being old.
And if people can grasp that, they'll suddenly have a completely different view. And instead of saying, I don't think I want to live to 95, they'll instead say, boy, I can't wait until I'm doing that. What does all this mean for investors?
We have to look at the markets and say, first of all, what are those countries that are going to be able to have vital economies as a result of their demography? And I still think the United States is very much a player, but we look at, Eastern Africa, and we look at Brazil, and we look at other parts of the world, and China and India, and we think, okay, you're also going to see financial services as a category. Your field, in which you have such a starring position, is going to take off as tens of millions of boomers are going to have to play catch up. And we can't rely anymore on pensions, and people are nervous that they can't really rely on the government as well as they might have in previous generations. So financial planning, financial services is about to get serious. And I think even though the word annuity turns people off, what people are really going to try to figure out is how do I make my money go the distance? And that's going to be a big part of the discussion.
Right. You're not referring to it in the context of today's annuity products. You mean the preservation of a monthly income for your lifetime.
Yes. As you talk about so much.
Right.
And last, I would say that I think people are going to have a lot of free time. So whether they use that time to go back to school or to take vacations or to become volunteers, get involved in charities, capitalizing on all this discretionary time through businesses is going to be a boom area for organizations, everything from, Starwood to psychotherapy.
It's fascinating you use that phrase. We often talk about discretionary income. I don't think I've heard the phrase discretionary time.
When your kids leave home, you get a wallop of free time. And then as you partially or fully retire, you have in front of you tens of years of free times, and most businesses and marketers that have been so youth-focused haven't begun to take advantage of that. People can travel not on kids' vacation time, but they can take months and travel during off-season.
That's an old Jewish joke in the big debate over when life begins. At birth, at conception, the rabbi says life begins when the kids are gone and the dog dies. So I think there might be something to that. Let's answer one final question for me before I let you go. Dr. Ken Dykewald, author of The New Purpose, and you can reach him and look at all the work he's done at agewave.com. We talked about the implications for investors going forward. Talk about it for students. If you're headed to college, if you're a youth today, what should I study?
Well, the first thing I think you should study is how to study, because you're likely to have 3 to 5 careers in your life. So I know what your question means. You're asking me, should people think about becoming a geriatric care manager? And I'm more fascinated by the idea that in this longer life, knowing how to reinvent yourself, re-career again and again and again is going to be a primary asset. So staying nimble on your feet. But clearly, industries that service the older population, whether they be care coordination or transportation services or concierge medicine or luxury travel or elder dating sites, are all going to take off in this age wave era.
Dr. Ken Dykewald, it's been a real pleasure having you with me on the show today.
Great to be with you too, Rick.
Want to laugh all the way to the bank? These comics will help.
That's the one thing in the world we can all agree, money. One thing in the world you can never have enough of. Is that correct? You know what I'm saying? Like, I love ice cream, but after 2-3 gallons, I'm done. Done. I don't want that 4th gallon of ice cream. I don't care how much it is, you know? But money, man, it's different. Money's just something about that. Like, I don't care how much money you have. Like, you could have $1 billion. Someone hands you a suitcase of cash. Like, well, it's always nice to have a little extra. Those trips to Europe do get expensive. My chauffeur keeps begging for a raise.
I think we give kids the wrong idea about money. Kids think money just comes out of nowhere. My niece was all excited because she got a visit from the tooth fairy. Uncle Keith, I got $10 from the tooth fairy. $10? Was it a platinum tooth? Did you have an ivory tusk in your face? If the tooth fairy was paying that rate when I was a kid, I'd be snorting pixie sticks. I'd be brushing my teeth with a Snickers bar. I'd be saving up for a bike. I'd be the only toothless kid in the neighborhood on a bike. A boot in my spell!
If you could ask a financial advisor just one question, what would it be? Here's one we hear from a lot of people. What is the worst piece of financial advice you've ever heard?
Buying all of one thing, putting all of your money in gold, putting all of your money in life insurance, putting all of your money in one stock. It's not about making sure you're 100% correct. It's just important to make sure you're not 100% wrong. So when people really focus on the hot idea, the hot stock, the one hot item, it certainly has the potential to do really well, but it has the absolute potential to blow up on you.
I mean, by general rule, most of the worst pieces of advice I've ever heard involve the word guarantee, right? I mean, anytime somebody has, a no-brainer or a guarantee, it can entice people to become overly confident or to put maybe too much eggs into that basket, and that's led to a lot of mistakes. It cost investors a lot of money.
One thing that doesn't cost a lot of money is a simple smile. The rewards can be priceless. Here's my wife and business partner, Jean, with the other side of money.
Smiling is so important. It's showing that you're a happy, positive person. And in our job and in our day, our smile can be heard no matter where or what we're doing. If we're answering the telephone, somebody knows at the other end whether you're smiling or not. We talk a lot about that ripple, that pebble in the pond. And that smile means a lot of different things to a lot of people. If I'm not feeling so good one day, but I see you with a great smile, you might be my answer to the day. You might help me get through something. And so then I can smile. And then I'm gonna carry that smile on to someone else. And so it's that ripple effect. It's that daisy chain of that smile. You've helped me in my day create some happy. Now I'm gonna go create some happy for someone else. A good smile is communicating that you're happy, you're positive, you've got a good outlook on life. In the beginning, if you're not naturally a happy person, is an intention that you need to set every day. Before we step out of bed in the morning and put our feet on the floor, if we say, okay, today, I'm gonna have a smile on all day, and I'm gonna smile at everybody I see, that smile's gonna change every encounter we have during the day. So in the morning, set that intention, and then you know what? After a while, it becomes a habit, and then that smile just stays with you every day.
Thanks, Jean. I think I need to have a smile on my face when I get home. A few final words before I go. If you're nearing the end of your mortgage, it might be smart to refinance and start that clock over. And as the population gets older, we all need to be smarter about saving for the future, because you don't want to be 85 and broke. And that's the truth about money. I'm Ric Edelman. To learn more about the topics we discussed on this episode and a chance to ask your questions, visit our website at truthaboutmoneytv.com. And stay connected by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter.